the sports news you need. Live.
Hello and welcome to the Saturday edition of the Locker Room on Indie Live Radio and Independence Live. Don't forget you can comment on anything that we are talking about. Apart from the comment, I think Gordon commented 2 hours ago actually. Great opportunity for Falkirk. You can do this. Well, as I say on the news, if you don't want to know the score, turn off now. And and we're joined today by Regan, Graham, and Alan for coming on. Thanks for coming on, Alan, because I didn't think you would be here after after Inverness reached the Scottish Cup final. But fair play to you for coming on. Try not to swear during the next cover of the game. So thanks for coming on. We're on till 4 o'clock. You can comment on anything we're talking about on YouTube or Twitter as well. So I don't know whether this could cancel the show now because Alan showed up. I don't want to say Inverness is the first team through to the Scottish Cup final on the 3rd of June, and I will come to Graham first on his initial thoughts on the game.
It was a decent game, I thought. Inverness were basically what Falkirk weren't, and that was clinical. I think the penalty decision, while it was letter of the law, a penalty, for me, it was a nonsense. That law needs scrap because that wasn't deliberate. I don't know what Leon McCann's meant to do. It's not a penalty for me. And then there's moments in games that kind of change things. And for me, the moment that changed it was Callum Morrison. He has to score. It's an open goal. He's got to score. I think if he scores that, momentum was with Falkirk. They were actually playing very well. I mean, although they lost the game, I was actually very impressed with Falkirk. You know, they got the ball down, played some really good stuff. They just didn't have that clinical edge. They had a couple of really good chances and couldn't take them. Obviously, they're 3-0 down second half, and they missed a glorious chance from Gary Oliver. But, you know, Inverness were just clinical, and that's why they're through. Fair play to Billy Mackay, 100th goal for Inverness. You know, really good goal for the second goal as well, Daniel Mackay's header. But I thought Falkirk played some really, really good stuff. It was just the fact that they weren't clinical enough. And Inverness, as I said yesterday, shouldn't even be in this competition. You know, had it not been for Ewan Henderson being ineligible, Queen's Park might have been in this. But fair play. They're in the final. You know, they've been clinical. But I did feel sorry for Falkirk because they put a lot into the game. And they just didn't have that bit of a clinical edge that might have made a massive difference. And as I say, that Callum Morrison chance for me was the big moment. They score that, it goes to 1-1. Momentum's with Falkirk after that, but they just didn't take their chances.
Alan, I'll come to you next. Obviously, it's a better pill to swallow after that game today, but Graham's right because the Bairns put a lot into that game. The only difference was up top.
Yeah, I think what we all saw was just going through the game briefly. It started off really well. We set. I like the way we're passing from the whistle, and then obviously the penalty. It came so early. It just it was sucker punch straight away. You asked yesterday if I was looking forward to VAR. I did not expect 5 minutes into the game to be just. I mean, I don't know how. There's no real way to say that. That just sucks the wind out your sails totally.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's one of those decisions that you know that it's fair, and the referee is abided by the rule. Well, whether we disagree with the rule or not, it was fair. So there's no qualms with that decision. It's not Inverness's fault. It's not. It's just one of these things that happen in a football match, and it was just gutting. A good penalty. So, but then I think the biggest. I've been talking to my friends who were at the game, and the biggest thing early on was if Morrison scores that goal to equalise, I felt like Inverness showed what they were going to do. Inverness showed that they were going to get us in the counter, and if we'd got an equaliser early doors, then we bring them back out and we start playing at each other again, and it's a different game of football. But it hits the post. Inverness then show their class. They know how to manage a game like that, and they're in a great run of form. And I guess, like you guys have pointed out just before, is we had 2 or 3 other chances. Kucheravi had a header and a couple of pop shots. The chance later on in the game that was missed by Oliver, and then you've got a couple of other ones. Burrell had one where he had to cut it back, and he tried to twist and get a shot when maybe a layoff would have been better. I mean, yeah, different day. We scored 2 as a minimum, and then it's more competitive. But it definitely feels like we didn't take our chances, and then there's nothing you can do if you don't take your chances at Hampden. You can't have any complaints.
Regan, would you say a championship team against a League One team, you would say, maybe a bit of a difference, but to be honest with you, there wasn't a lot of differences on the park, apart from, as I say, get the top of the park. That was the only difference, could you have thought?
Yeah, I was quite impressed with Falkirk. I thought they played the ball about pretty well, and they defended pretty well. But like you guys were saying, I think it was just at the top of the park where the big difference maker was. And in terms of that front goal, what a finish it was from Billy. So, yeah, I don't think you can be too critical of Falkirk. I think they tried their best. They did well, and I was particularly hoping that Falkirk would actually win the game, as I've spoken to a few of the players throughout the season. But no, I just was hoping that it was going to be a good game. But as we always say, Michael, I thought VR ruined the spectacle again. I mean, I'm just not a big fan of it, Michael. I just think we need to get rid of it. But like Alan was saying, I thought it was. I mean, I could potentially see why it was a penalty, but I just think if you're going to have things like that, you could be there all day.
Yeah, no, exactly, Graham. And I know that I was kind of joking last night with Aaron on the show about, are you looking forward to VAR? Now, I was hoping, and I've been saying this from October since VAR came in, by the way, that we could do a show without speaking about VAR, but obviously not this weekend. And there might be 1 or 2 VAR incidents tomorrow, but I'll leave that up to you guys to speak about tomorrow. But I just felt, I just felt as though that VR incident coming at 4 minutes gone of the game, that took the wind out of kind of like Falkirk sails, kind of like a wee bit. Would you agree with that? Or
yeah, absolutely. I think it's a case of we didn't even get a chance to get them up. We got excited. We're passing the ball about. I think your worst fear, especially as the underdog, is that your team frees up for the occasion. But very early doors, we were getting passes about the park, and it showed great potential. And before even getting a chance to get into the game, you've got a VAR call, and that's just a case of, I think, once I got over the shock, and obviously the penalty got scored, it was like, right, it's all about how we respond now, and we responded well. So I mean, I tried to just get, even in my head as a fan, it must be so awful in the park as a player, because I think the fans, I've just spoke to my friend who was at the game, and they were right next to the corner, and the fans couldn't even see. Obviously, we see the replays in the telly or wherever you've watched it, and you know, like right away, it's like he's touched his hand. Yeah, a crap rule, but it is what it is. But the guys in the stadium had no idea, except a few Inverness players appealing it. So yeah, the players knew what it was. It's not. They'll probably maybe didn't feel like it was an injustice, and they picked themselves up really well. And it's how we carried ourselves after that. To go 2-0 down, that was a sucker punch, because it's an early cross so we didn't stop the cross, and then it's between 2 centre backs, and you're just like, that's again, it's an issue we've had repeated throughout the season. Again, we know we're a League One club where quality defenders are going to be less. There's a reason this guy's at Falkirk and not at Inverness in Cole Donaldson, and Mackay, for that matter of fact, both ex-Inverness players. So there's a reason they're playing for us. But I thought for the most part of the game, they done all right. Cole was quite good at bursting out and sort of getting the ball into the final third. I think the criticism all day is probably that we weren't quick enough. But I think we did in terms of just the VAR call. I think we responded well, and I think the bigger talking point is if, and I watched John McGlynn after the game in his interview, and he said the same thing. He says if Morrison scores, different game.
And I know this is no consolation, Graham, to any Falkirk fans, but if VAR wasn't introduced, that wasn't a penalty.
No, I think the biggest thing to me there about VAR, and everyone's had the same thing, is the inconsistency, because you've seen those same decisions not given all season, and some that are given. And obviously at first, Nick Wolf doesn't even give it. I mean, he clearly sees it and doesn't give it. And then he's got to go to the monitor and he takes about 1 second to look at it. But it's the inconsistency that's the problem. And this has happened all season. I mean, I think Nick Wolf's a poor referee anyway, but then most referees are.
There was just on that note, you talking about consistency, and right after it, there was a handball by an Inverness player in front of Walsh, and it was in the centre of the park, but it wasn't given as a free kick, and it was so close after the penalty call. You're like, I understand it's not a penalty, it's not a card instance, so they're not going to review it, but you just feel a bit sucker punched. You're like, when you've given the penalty and you've not given that, come on.
I know that obviously that was your first taste, and you're saying to yourself, well, hopefully it's the last taste until you guys get into the championship. And me and Graham and Reagan watch it week in, week out as well. But like, what I mean, I don't know what needs to be done to like change it. I know that we had the debate on the show weeks ago, and I don't know how you would stand in this one, Alan, about if they make the officials full time, or do you think that would be the same outcome if they were full time or not?
It was quite funny. At the start of the game, if anybody's watching the opening couple of minutes, the advertising boards right behind the or where the camera was looking in that north stand, it had become a referee advertised, which I thought was quite ironic, given the state of affairs. I think that right now refereeing in Scotland is in a crisis moment. We have got every single week, we've got fans, we've got players, we've got managers, from not just our league, but from other leagues, commenting on the quality of it. And I mean, if you're in a profession and you're trying to do a job, how does that feel? I mean, if anything, refereeing is a confidence game just as much as maybe being a goalkeeper. Like you're drawn on for the big decisions, and what you decide to do is going to make a difference in the outcome of a match. So it's vitally important that first of all you're confident, and if the referees aren't being given an opportunity to be full time, if they're not given an opportunity to get more training or just do things that will give the public more faith in them, then I don't know where we go with this. I think VAR. I think Ali McCoy said it a few weeks ago, or maybe even more recently. He said, "Just get rid of it altogether in Scotland." You brought it in halfway through a season, which was already a joke, and it's clearly not working. And it sounds like sour grapes, and it probably is. But I mean, I don't like it. I'm not a fan.
Before we move on and speak about the game, I'm interested to hear your points on VR, because this is the first time that we've actually spoke to a fan or somebody connected to a club outside the Premiership. But do you feel as though when Nick Walsh makes that decision, obviously me and Graham spoke about this on the show after the game back in the day, I'm not advising football fans could go to the pub after the game, but when you go to the pub after the game, you speak about the game. But now that you go to the pub and you don't speak about the game, that you speak about the officials. But going back to today's game, when Nick Walsh made that horrendous decision at the beginning of the game, do you think that he thinks, well, it's a big occasion for Inverness and Falkirk, but I'm going to take it away because guess what? It's all about me and VAR today.
I think the referees in this country, there's no doubt they're under a massive amount of pressure. I think VAR, as its name is video assistant referee, I think they are probably encouraged to use it, especially if it's in its early days, There'll be a lot of training in that regards, and I guess they have to have confidence in their full refereeing team. I think personally, I don't know what the correct decision is in that matter because I'm biased, obviously being a Falkirk fan. No one would have complained apart from Inverness fans if he hadn't given it. No football fan outside of the game, and maybe even Inverness fans after watching it, would come back and say, there's no way he can get his hand out the road. He's turned. It's the way you swing your body is why the hands ended up in that position. If you're being really critical from a Falkirk point of view, you're saying get closer, and so that's not an issue. But in terms of VAR, I hope it wasn't a case of, like you're saying, I hope it wasn't a case of he wants to make the occasion about himself. I think he let the game flow quite well after that. Whether that was in response to it, I'm not sure. The first yellow card was quite late on for the challenge on, I think it was a challenge on Kennedy. So I'm not sure what he was really thinking, but yeah, I mean, it's definitely got there's issues that need to be fixed.
Reagan, so that's Inverness into the final in the 3rd of May and the 3rd of May, sorry, the 3rd of June. I'm just that used to saying May. But they know that they're coming up against Celtic or Rangers tomorrow, and basically it's a big month for Inverness because they'll be in the playoffs as well. So it's going to be a good few weeks for Inverness fans. And Billy Dawgs has done a brilliant job since he's went in there to Inverness.
He definitely has. I think Inverness and Falkirk have got the same kind of problem because when you speak to some of the Falkirk and the Inverness players, they've kind of been in this kind of thing where we don't want to get injured for the semi-final, but also kind of try to focus on getting into the playoffs. And when you're Falkirk as well, at that time they were still chasing the top of the table as well. So I went on to ask Stephen, the captain as well, spoke to him about it, and he says that obviously plays in your mind because you don't want to be injured for the semi-final of the Scottish Cup. So I think for Inverness as well, it's going to be a difficult one because what does Billy always do? Because obviously it'll be psychological in the players' minds, thinking they want to put 100% in. Not that they're not going to put 100% in, but there's going to be that little tinge in their mind to say, well, I'd rather play a Scottish Cup final because we want to be in that and do well. And obviously Inverness have got a very decent record against Celtic. We all know that song. Inverness go ballistic, Celtic are atrocious. So yeah, I mean, and also don't forget that time when the Inverness player Josh Meekings, he handled the ball. Remember that game? And Inverness go on to win the game, and Craig Gordon gets sent off. So Inverness will be fancying their chances, and obviously Rangers. I'm not saying that the Rangers have not been really good this season, but they've got their frailties as well. So I wouldn't count out Inverness, but I think it's a big advantage to either Celtic or Rangers, Michael. I did see that Inverness, they play, see if they get to the final of the Championship playoff, that will be played on the 10th of June. So that is interesting because that'll be 7 days after the Scottish Cup final. So their players will still need to be in very good nick going into that. So it's not as if once they'll be playing that, they'll be celebrating onto the Barbados beach. They'll need to be in top nick for the to go up to the Championship. I wanted to ask Alan one thing. Alan, do you think that the players are still a very good mindset to go into the Championship, or do you think that this might set them back?
I think not scoring a goal will be difficult because we created chances, and if you come away from a game having not taken them, an important game at Hampden, that's always going to sit with you a little bit. I wonder. It'll be interesting to see how we respond immediately to that. But I don't think it will hurt long term because I think if you watch the game, the way we played against Inverness, if you, as an outsider, yes, we weren't clinical. Yes, we didn't really, our creativity wasn't great, but we weren't a million miles away. We don't have a Billy Mackay, we don't have some of the better players in the final third that they do, but we have enough in the team. We're a good passing side. We brought it out from the back well. We defended well in parts. I think the challenging thing is when you're down in the lower leagues of Scotland Scottish football, that Inverness might not have totally, or they might, I'm not sure, but a lot of your players are on 1 or 2 year contracts, and you end up losing the spine of a team very quickly. Now, we've got guys like Burrell, who's on the last year of his contract. If we were to go up, that'll be renewed, obviously. Lol, who came on, he's got another year in his deal. But guys like Kucheravi, he's on loan from St Johnstone. I don't know what you guys thought, but he had a great game in my eyes. And it's very likely that St Johnstone will keep him and put him in the first team. You've got other guys, Kinnear, who's on loan from down south. He's unlikely to stay. And then you've got your loanees, obviously Matthew Wright, who came on. He's not really had a great spell in a Falkirk top, but these guys are going to go, so we're going to have to readjust. And how that enters their mind in the sort of the playoff games, I'm not sure, but I think we've seen enough that we can contest. The teams at the bottom of the championship, and Airdrie are a good team, but the teams at the bottom, I don't think we've anything to fear. So this game can only give us confidence.
I wanted to ask you, Alan, seeing in terms of Falkirk, because we've been on this show for quite a while now. And this time last year, we had the board arguing with the fans. We had things going on the park as well. Do you think what would you say is changed? Do you think it's bringing in the manager, bringing in Stephen McGinn? Do you think it is solely bringing in John McGlynn, because he's really done well at Raith Rovers as well, and he's really changed the club?
I think McGlynn's obviously massive for getting us to this stage. I think if you looked at it last season, I think we were 6th place and obviously had a crap run in the cup. This season, we've had a Scottish Cup semi-final and 2nd place. So there's definitely improvement with McGlynn. But there's actually much more that's gone on behind the scenes. So we were one of our main investors, if you like, a couple of years until last year, was the Rollins from America. We had also Gary Deans and Gary Holt was in the background as sporting director.
I remember that.
So we've had up until that, this was all still in place up until that infamous conference with the fans. This Q&A. That's a statement, not a question, that everyone remembers. Ever since that, it's only gotten better. So we've got good guys in the club like Jamie Swinney, who we got from Stennismuir.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
Brilliant guy. And on the commercial side, he's making lots of changes that's bringing in more revenue, but he's also just a good guy. He put on the, like I mentioned yesterday, put on the free buses for fans that couldn't afford it to get to Hampden. There was tickets released for free to families, tickets for disabled fans as well, and with our carers. So there was lots of initiatives that he's brought that small community club mentality from Inverness, and he's bringing that feel-good factor that comes with that back to Falkirk. So that's changed. The full board has changed as well after that conference, which is positive. So that there's lots of things happening, and then bringing in a guy like McGlynn who brings that success on the park. That's what, obviously, at the end of the day, that's what we fans, we want to see good people on the board.
Aye. I've got one more question for you, Alan. See, in terms of that 12-15 kickoff, right? Were Falkirk fans really happy? Because I was a bit surprised that they put it on 12-15, because surely if you're Falkirk and Inverness, Michael, I don't know what you guys think, but surely if you're Falkirk and Inverness, surely it's a bad kickoff time for them to get down there. Like you say, they've got buses on, they've got Inverness should probably need to stay there down the night before or whatever. But it's a bit strange for me.
Yeah. I don't know what you think as well, Michael, but I mean, for me, I know a lot of guys in Inverness, and it takes a long time to get down there. I think the trains in the morning, if you're going to go down, are 7 and 8 o'clock departures, and that's a long journey to get down. Now, obviously, if you're having a couple of coffees or beers with your mates and stuff, you look forward to that. That's fine, but it's inconvenient for anybody. without a doubt. I think there's the 3 o'clock blackout, so that's obviously impacted on when they can show the game. But be sensible about it. Take a hit if there's a fine, because you see enough England games get put on TV.
I would cover that by saying the FA Cup final is going to be 3 o'clock.
Aye,
So
exactly that.
Surely they can.
But you know, I know that the Rangers Celtic game's 1:30 tomorrow, right? But if you were an Inverness or a Falkirk fan, would you rather swap with Celtic and Rangers to have that 1:30 kickoff and Celtic and Rangers at 12:15 or 12:30 tomorrow? Because I mean, the majority of the fans are based in Glasgow, maybe outside. Okay, people are coming from Belfast and Ireland and all that kind of thing. But I just feel as though that would have been a better option, Regan, to have that at 1:30 instead of 12:15. But I would say that the Falkirk fans are, I know this is a bit stupid me saying this, but the Falkirk fans are closer to Hampden than Inverness fans. Inverness, you know. In fact, when you look at it, Inverness is the further away club to all the Premiership clubs, or maybe the Championship clubs as well. But I was just going to say that, and I know you weren't there today, that's why you're here. And as I say, thanks for coming on after getting beat for the commitment for you, you know. But they were talking about on the telly before the game that, and I could see the point, but I could see for the fans' point of view as well about taking the semi-final away from Hampden. And okay, you saw in the telly there was millions of gaps on the stadium, but I think like you would rather have the game played at Hampden than moving the game to say Tynecastle or whatever.
Well, I think in terms of, I was just going to see Alan, he thinks about that, but I think obviously it's one of those days, if you ask any player that Falkirk player, that may be the only time you get. You go to Hampden to experience it.
No, you're absolutely right, and I think that's the key point. It's very easy for anybody who's watching it on the telly to say, "Oh, yeah, but I see some gaps in the screen, and maybe you should play at a smaller stadium so I can see a fuller stadium." But at the end of the day, the only people that actually matter are the fans in the stadium and the players on the pitch. And if they've had a good, they want to, like you say, Michael, they want to experience Hampden. They might never get a chance to experience Hampden again. So you want them to be playing on that Hampden surface, and that's why that's the reward for getting a good cup run, and for the fans as well. If there's, I mean, we took just about 9,000. I'm not sure how many Inverness got in the end. I'm not sure how many Inverness got in the end, but if you put,
I think it was 3,000.
So if you've got 12,000, you're going to have 12,000 at Tynecastle or 12,000 at Hampden. You heard your atmosphere on TV. You could hear the fans the whole game. There was no issue with the fans in terms of the atmosphere. And we were singing our sections of fans. I could hear the Falkirk songs clear as day. Obviously, when Inverness took momentum, especially when they got that third goal, all you could hear was Inverness fans. So there was no problem with the atmosphere at Hampden. I think Hampden, it depends on sort of the game and how the game's going, how loud the crowd want to be. If people are up for it and they're getting what they want in terms of performance, they'll react and the stadium will be as loud as you want it to be. I don't think there's an argument there. Always at Hampden.
Graham, I was just going to say as well that, Graham, I was just going to say about Inverness. I don't know about you, but if you were an Inverness fan, and I'm sorry to say this again, Alan, but they can't believe their luck. Like 1 minute they were out the Scottish Cup, now they're back in, now they're in the big final at the end of the season. And I don't think, I might get a bit of stick from Inverness fans or whatever, but I don't think like they would be coming up against Celtic and Rangers and they'll say, well, we've got an outside chance of winning the game, but it's still a big achievement for a club like Inverness to reach a final, even though they were out for 5 minutes.
Aye, absolutely.
I think
just
Inverness has nothing to lose. No, I mean, Inverness have got nothing to lose in this final. They're not expected to win it no matter who they play. It is a massive achievement. As I say, they probably are very lucky to be in it. If it wasn't for Queen's Park having it in as a player, typically got to be a Hearts player as well, Ewan Henderson. But listen, fair play to that result against Livingston. They were excellent that day at Ammanville. They were really, really good. And they carried that on. And as I say, they will know themselves that in the final they probably don't have much chance. But it's a great day for the fans. And if they did manage to cause a shock, it would be probably even bigger than the Inverness Cali one that's Celtic Park. But it would be a massive shock. I don't see it happening, to be honest. I think it will be, I've already said, I think it'll be a Celtic Inverness final. And I think Celtic win comfortably. But fair play to Inverness. But again, before I came on, I listened to another radio show and they were talking about you could see the gap between the Championship and the First Division. I don't think there wasn't much of a gap. I thought Falkirk played well. All they missed was a clinical edge that Inverness had. I don't think there was that much of a gap. And I genuinely think that if Falkirk come up through the playoffs, and I hope they do, I think they'll be fine in the Championship. They've got some very good players there. They need to sign probably a couple of strikers that can finish. But apart from that, I thought Falkirk played a lot of good stuff in that game. They just didn't have that clinical edge.
Alan, just before you go, in terms of, you've only got one more game, has it, before the playoffs coming up?
Yeah, that's right. So I'm just double checking the fixtures just there. So the next set of games, there's obviously a lot of games today, and then we play away to Peterhead. So that's on the 6th of May. And then I think it's the first set in the semi-final. We'll be playing Airdrie over 2 legs. A good Airdrie side who are on form, banging in goals for fun with their front two. So by no means an easy task, although I've just seen the scores there and they're getting beat 2-0 for Queen of the South. So that's positive. And
I mean, obviously you've got another season to go, hopefully in this season if you make the Championship. But Falkirk is a Premiership team because, I mean, for the Skigam at the new, well, I don't know if they call it the new Falkirk Skigam. I don't know what they call it now, but it's a nice wee Skigam. All they need to do is actually build another stand and that's it.
Yeah, I think we've got the infrastructure. Whether another stand would come, we'd need to see consistent years in the Premiership and filling it out. I think that comes with a team who are performing well, who regularly get into cup semi-finals. I mean, I think in terms of the last 14 years, we've had 3 semi-final appearances in that cup. So it's obviously 2 final appearances. So we're in terms relative to Scottish football, we're at Hampden quite a lot, which is good to see. But going forward, I think what we need to do is, I think if we got into the Premier League, and the club's ambition is to do that by 2027. So they've just brought out the season ticket prices, and they've basically confirmed that for the next 3 years, it's either 2 or 3 years, the season tickets will remain the same price regardless of what league we're in. So if we're in the Championship or the Premier League, it'll be the same price. So that's a bit of an incentive for people to invest in the team now. And like you guys mentioned, if we get a clinical striker, there's talk that we're in for Kelty Hearts striker Angus Aguiman, their forward. So he's got I think he's not been in form lately, but he's had a few goals this season. So that'll be another sort of seeing if we can mix it up, because we aren't far away. We're not.
Sorry, Alan, just one more thing before you go. Do you think you'll go up?
Yes.
There you go. There's confidence for you, Mike.
Yeah, big stuff. Yeah.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks for coming on again. And I'm sorry it was disappointing today, but hopefully you had a good time coming back on the show.
It's all right. At least we don't have to be the ones getting beat 6-0 in the final. So there's always that.
Well, yeah. At half time, maybe. No.
I really appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me.
Right.
And,
thanks for
take
coming.
it easy.
Right.
Cheers.
See you again. Bye-bye.
See you again.
There we go. That was a
There
we go. That was a fair, disappointing but fair play to Alan Rush for coming on the show. About new contributor, a new Falkirk, a Falkirk fan, and it's nice to have somebody to come on the show, Reagan, in the Championship, because we haven't really got anybody from a contributor from that neck of the woods. So it's good to have some going.
I'm just glad to have somebody on that talks about a sense, because we stuck with you and Graham for a while. No, but it's great to have Alan on. It's good to see him join the team, and it's just sad that Falkirk lost out today because I thought they played pretty well. Yep, my Michael, but like he says, there's been football going on in the lower leagues, and there's quite a few lot of scores. It's 1-0 at Queen's Park against Morton, 0-0 with Raith Rovers in air, and 0-0 with Partick Thistle versus Arbroath. So as things stand, Queen's Park will be top of the league going into the last game.
Yeah, and as we said last night in the show, Graham, before we come back to the Scottish Cup, but disappointing for Dundee last night. But if Queen's Park wins today, they'll no bother because it's in their hands now.
Yeah, I mean, there was me saying last night that I thought Dundee would hammer them, and that clearly didn't happen. Fair play to Cove Point, probably quite earned point as well, but what a chance for Queen's Park in that game today, knowing that if they have to go top or draw next week, they're doing their job at the moment, but a long way to go. But it sets it up brilliantly for next week. The Championship's going to be superb next week. And I think as well, all the games are on the Friday night, which is even better. So yeah, fantastic. And that Queen's Park Dundee game will be absolutely this week.
And sorry, Michael, just to jump in, but that match has been chosen for TV, I'm told. So that'll be great. I mean,
what, the Queen's Park game?
Queen's Park Dundee is on TV. So
yeah, that's good. Yeah, I mean, I wonder if you were a headline, making headlines for the papers tomorrow. It'll be Magic Mackay for Inverness, Reagan.
Or it could be having a class of real Mackay.
Very good. Yes,
for the whiskey drinkers of this great country. But no, I mean, it's. I think when you look at him, Billy, he's been around the block. He went to the Championship down in England as well. I think it was Birmingham and Wigan as well. So he's shown in these places that he's a very good player. And I think if Inverness don't go up, I think he could do a job at somebody in the Premiership as well. Mike, I don't know if you think about that, but his third goal was absolutely outstanding. See the finish, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, but I know you're talking about the finish, and I think they were saying about the ball into the box. That was a brilliant ball into the box.
Yeah, it was, and
they make it look that easy as well.
Yeah, and you need to say fair play to Billy Dodds, and because he's brought a really good squad there. Like, is it Allardyce in midfield as well? He looks to be decent, and
Sean Allardyce, I think his name is. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. So they've brought a really good squad there.
Scott, yeah, there we go. The voice in my ear, Duffy. And I didn't realise that, gives you a wee joke there, I was going to text you during the game, Graham, but I didn't know you had a brother that plays for Inverness.
Which one's that?
Duffy.
I've got many of them. You just never see them.
Maybe that conversation for another show. But yeah, so as they say, if you're just tuning in, we're here until 4:00 on Indie Live Radio on Independence Live, where Inverness is the first team to make the Scottish Cup final on the 3rd of June. Falkirk 0, Inverness 3, and I was saying to Aaron there, Graham, about the penalty. It must have really deflated the Falkirk fans to be up for the game, and then 4 minutes gone, Falkirk got a penalty. Inverness got a penalty.
Yeah, Lexi, because again, letter of the law is a penalty, but that's the frustration that you've seen numerous things like this all season. Some given, some not. And I don't really know what Leon McCann can do there. You know, he's got his back turned, hits his hand. For me, that's not a penalty.
And the first goal is always going to be crucial in this game. And, obviously Inverness get it and score the goal. But even then after that, I think Alan's right. I thought Falkirk responded very well. They had those chances, and I keep saying that Callum Morrison chance, he has to finish that. Open goal, you've got to score. And they had other chances after that as well. I thought they responded very well, but they just didn't manage to get that clinical edge that Inverness had. And I think if Falkirk or Billy Mackay, it's a different story. But Inverness, I genuinely don't think there was that much between the two teams. It was just the fact that Inverness could finish and Falkirk. But now attention will turn to Falkirk to try and get up to the championship. Very, very good chance they will. I think they looked a very good side today on a big pitch. Very, very good side, but they just have to be more clinical. A lot of folk have said that in Falkirk is a better football side, but Dunfermline were winning games, and that's the big thing. So Falkirk have still got a lot to play for. Disappointed today, but I think they can be proud of their team because they did play well. They just didn't take their chance at the right time.
And Reagan, I was just going to say, Falkirk, the second half, I don't know about you, but I thought it kind of petered out a wee bit. But Falkirk, I wouldn't like to say that they gave up, but I just felt as though when Inverness went 2-0 up, the Falkirk kegs went down. Obviously, when they went 3-0 up, they were totally out of the game. But when they were 2-0 up, when they were 2-0 down, I thought they deflated them even more.
I mean, it was just a bit of a shame because Falkirk have done so well to get here, and it's just a shame that they've threw it away essentially. But yeah, I think if you look at it and say to yourself, if you ask John McGlynn, if you ask Jimmy Sweeney, would they have took a run to the Scottish Cup semi-final? I think they would say yes, because as we know, Mike, we've said it on this show many times, finances in Scottish football are not that great. So getting to a semi-final for Falkirk would have been absolutely great. And like you stated it earlier, sometimes you need a wee bit of luck, and they just didn't have that today with the VR call and then that Morrison chance in the first half. If that goes in, I think Falkirk are going to win the game, to be honest.
And I know it's ifs and buts, Graham, but if the penalty number came so early in the game, do you feel as though it would have been a closer game than it was?
Possibly. Do you think Falkirk did play very, very well? But that early goal, I think it maybe did. You might have thought it might not the stuff in it of Falkirk, as Alan said. I don't think it did. I still think Falkirk plays some really good stuff. They just didn't score the goals. And it's Partick Thistle won a Broth 0, by the way, after about 39 minutes, I think it is. But yeah, I think Falkirk, they did play some really good stuff. For large spells in that first half, I generally don't think there was much between the two teams. It was just the fact that Inverness took the chances they got. The second goal, it's a really good goal from Daniel Mackay, but it's poor defending from Falkirk. Leo McCann maybe didn't have the best of first halves, but he's standing off him. Got to get tighter. It's a good header, and from Billy Mackay's a great finish. He had a lot to do. It's a great finish, and that's the massive. But the penalty probably did have been on the game, and the fact it came that early. But I do feel sorry. I do feel sorry for Falkirk because he did play a lot of good stuff. Matches winning, he didn't manage to do that.
Graham, I did hear Graham Shinnie saying that he was disappointed that a fellow Premiership side wasn't in the semi-final. Are you still raging that you're not in the semi-final of the Cup, or you got over it yet?
Nah, I'm well over it. We were there last year. I'd like to get a bit further, but when you're playing Celtic in the Scottish Cup, you're probably going to get knocked out. We never have much luck with Scottish Cup balls, but it is what it is. Disappointed that we're not there, but you know what? We were there last. Hopefully next season. There's always next year.
Do you think that now? Hopefully, I'm not going to curse Inverness's chances now, Reagan. But do you think that if Inverness fails to make the Premiership next season, do you think there'll be a few clubs in the Premiership looking at Billy Dogs and looking at especially the two Mackay boys that plays for Inverness?
I think we'll be looking at a lot of the players, Michael. I think when you look at Ridgers and goal, he's been a Premiership side before. You look at is it Stephen Welsh, midfield? Is it the captain Walsh or Welsh? So if you look at him, you look at Allardyce, you look at Brad Mackay and Billy. So yeah,
And
I
Shaw
think
as well.
Sure, aye, they've got some decent options, and I think there'll be a lot of clubs sniff around them and saying, where can we get a bargain? Because um, I'm not privy to the finances in Inverness, but I'm sure if a club for the Premiership comes in, I don't think they'll be knocking it back. And I think Billy Mackay would be perfect for likes of us, St Johnson and Dundee United, because those clubs are always looking for top finishers to get them out of banging trouble. So yeah, I think there's hope, but also for Inverness, you need to say that if they don't get in, it's a disappointing season, because they've started to play some really good stuff under Billy Dodds, and the fans are starting to get excited. I don't know. I don't know if Graham knows. He's the Scottish football encyclopedia. But Graham, do you know if how many Inverness fans turned up there today?
I think it was 3,000, Gorgon, at the game.
I thought it was more, but I think 3,000 is quite disappointing, to be honest, because I was going to say hopefully it'll attract a bigger crowd into the club. But yeah, that's just to bosh my argument. But I think for Inverness, it's all about building up, because only a few years ago, Inverness was a Premiership club, Michael, beating Rangers 2-1 at home, beating Celtic, and also they're quite used to winning the Scottish Cup. I remember when they beat Falkirk in the final, and Dave McCracken and all the players with it at Falkirk. So I think Inverness is on the right track, and Billy Dodds, like you said, I think there'll be Premiership clubs that'll be looking at him. Maybe even possibly St Johnson. I don't know what you think about that, Graham, but St Johnson looking for a manager, and you see Billy Dodds getting his club into the playoff positions, and also getting the players into the final. I think he'd be a very good person to bring in now.
Yeah, potentially. At Queen's Park won just about the stroke of half time. A penalty from Grant Gillespie at half time there. So 1-1 at Capello. Billy Dodds done a really good job. I've said that already. I think he's done a very good job. It wouldn't be surprised if St Johnson did maybe go down that route, but there's a lot of managers now. There's a lot of teams now looking for managers. So, I think Billy did a great job, and I wouldn't be surprised if he did maybe even take Billy Mackay with him. And like you mentioned, a few other players as well, but he's done a fantastic job. I think when he got the job at first, I wasn't quite sure about him, but it's a fantastic job there. They're maybe not the most, maybe don't play the best football, but you know what? It's about getting results. And well, I think for a lot of good stuff today, but they're not in the final, and Inverness are.
Reagan, before we go back to the game as well, but I don't know about you guys, but I think it's quite interesting what Alan was saying about the season ticket price and all that. And I know that Falkirk's getting a message, everyone, about the carers go free to the games. I've heard that a few weeks ago. But do you think that if you were a Premiership club, you would take a leaf out of Falkirk's book in terms of, I know it's different divisions and different levels of football, but I'm just talking about like the cost of living crisis and all that at the moment?
Yeah, Michael, because I remember last season, me and Graham having a debate on here about, I think it was Aberdeen against the Highbees, when I stated that to go and watch that game is 30 quid when those team was in the bottom six, nothing to play for. So I think there's a kind of reality check that needs to set in to these clubs and go, well, really, if we just made the games maybe 10 quid to get in, you'd double the attendance, you would make more on the pies, you'd make more on the drinks. I think that, because Michael, it's not just about buying the ticket. Like, if you want to go to football with somebody, they're going to want chocolate, they're going to want crisps, they're going to want everything under the sun, maybe a new top. So you might as well take your mortgage with you as well, because it's far too expensive, and we need to make football a sport that is inclusive for everybody, no matter what budget you're on. If you,
yeah, Reagan's right there, Glenn. But also, what I was saying about the kickoff times as well, like Inverness fans would have to set out at 7 o'clock to get down to Glasgow, and that's more money as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you remember that, I think it was months and months ago where St Johnstone fans unfurled a banner at McDermott Park to say 20 is plenty, which I completely agree with. You know, £20 for, I think today it was like £38 for a ticket. And I'm sorry, but for Inverness against Falkirk, that should not be £38 for a ticket. It's an absolute joke. And again, the kickoff times, again, 12:30 wasn't a great kickoff time for Inverness particular, but I think you would still obviously get fans that want to travel for that game, but it maybe didn't look the best on TV, for example, for the attendance. People, again, from outside looking at it, thinking, where's all the fans? But again, I just think £38 for a ticket for that game today was an absolute joke. And again, I think I said yesterday, I've heard a couple of folks saying they were going to go as neutrals to that game today to see what it was like, but they refused to pay the money, which I completely agree with. It's far, far too much. You're pricing folk out of football. And Reagan's right. You know, if you're taking a family at that game, it's far, far too much, because you are going to get kids that want tops and scarves and food and stuff. You are pricing folk out of the game, and that's not a good look.
But I suppose, like, Reagan, I suppose, like, even though we're talking about Inverness sitting off at 7 o'clock to get to Hampden, they'll not care now because they won the game and they're going back to Hampden for the final. So they don't care what if it was 11:30 kickoff, 10:30 kickoff. It's all about getting to the final, I suppose.
Right, Michael, I'll ask you this question. I know we have this debate on every radio station on the planet after Scottish Cup finals, but I'll ask you this question, right? How much do you think Inverness should be should be asking for a ticket allocation? Because I'm sorry, if they can only take 4,000 to the semi-final, then they shouldn't be getting any more, because there's hundreds and thousands of Rangers and Celtic supporters that are going to go there tomorrow, and they should be entitled to a ticket. Well, I'm sorry, if we're going to go 50-50 split for Inverness versus Celtic or Rangers, I think it would be a disgrace, because at the end of the day, I get it that it's the occasion, and Inverness might bring the local lady down the local shop that makes the pies in Inverness High Street, but at the end of the day, everybody wants to see a full Hampden. We don't want to see empty seats. We don't want to see someone that's never watched football in their life, but they're coming for a wee jolly to Glasgow. We want to see the Scottish Cup finals are all about tradition. It's all about getting as many fans in as possible.
Yeah, well, Graham, that's funny that Reagan to say that, right? Because I was watching the game and I was saying that conversation is going to come up, but I didn't think Reagan was going to come in right away with that question. That's a brilliant question, but I don't know what Graham thinks of
Thanks
this.
very much, Michael.
I don't know what Graham thinks of this, but I would take the average home gate. Including the season tickets, and people just buy his ticket for one-off games. And to be honest with you, if you've been watching Inverness on the TV at home this season, it's not been a lot, let's face it. But I know what you're saying, Reagan, because Inverness fans will start moaning about tickets. I don't know about Graham would say about that, but that's how I feel kind of like about that one.
No, I'm in a complete agreement, but this happens all the time. You know, you get clubs that maybe don't often get to a final and demand numerous tickets when they don't get a big crowd at home. It's something that does frustrate me a little bit, and I'm sure that Inverness will probably ask for 50-50. They won't get it. There's no chance they'll get it. But it is, I mean, if you're gonna if you're going to ask for a 50-50 split, then you should be selling at your home games. Simple fact. And they just don't do that. And again, this is the thing that I've talked about for ages. You've got teams in the Premier League, for example, like Livingston, St Johnstone, for example, that don't sell at the home games. Yet if they got to a final, they would want more tickets. That, for me, shouldn't happen. Everyone else will get 50-50 split. Absolutely no chance. And if they did, I'd be very surprised, because where are they coming from? All these fans, where are they coming from?
I would like to apologise at this point, Michael, to the local tea lady at Inverness, even though I did say that there. I'd like to apologise, but I hope you do come to the final, the local lady at Inverness. But yeah, but I just hope that everybody can be sensible and say that obviously Celtic will bring the majority of the crowd, or Rangers will bring the majority of the crowd, because these two clubs are synonymous with big support and big fan bases.
And you forgot to mention, Regan, to that tea reggae, that 2 sugars and milk. That would be very nice as well. Thank you very much.
Oh no, Michael, just milk for myself. Just milk.
Just milk, yeah. You're sweet enough.
Sweet enough,
but yeah, I mean, compare that to, like, I hate to bring Hearts in this conversation, because obviously Glenn will spit his dummy out in a minute, right? But if Hearts got to the final and they asked for a 50-50 split, I would have no issues with that, Regan, because if you look at Tynecastle, it's a full house every week, no matter if they're playing Celtic or Rangers at Millen or Livingston. You know, I wouldn't have any argument there, and maybe Hibs as well.
Because you know that Tynecastle is 19,000 strong every week, and you know that would they be able to sell possibly 9,000 extra tickets? Of course they would, because the Green would know. I think they've got a waiting list for the season tickets, whatever it is. So, and they've got that, is it the Pride of Hearts Foundation? So they've got a lot. They've got a lot of things going on there, and a lot of fans want to be in the stadium.
Yeah, and just to we've only got a few minutes left on the show. I mean, going back to what Glenn was saying earlier on, changing tack just for a minute. If Arbroath holds on at Fairhill today against Packet, first of all, Ben, so some Friday night after Cove Rangers picking up a point last night, Glenn.
Winning, so Arbroath need to come back and get something out of that game. But yeah, I mean, it's all set up for a brilliant week. Morton drawn 1-1 with Queen's Park, but we know the title's going down to the last day anyway. But next, absolutely huge. Again, the only team that doesn't have Wraith Rovers, you know, they're on the beach already. They have nothing to play for. I think it's 0-0 the Ayr and Wraith Rovers just now. But next is going to be massive in the championship, and I'm glad all the games are on. Obviously next Friday, and we'll see Queen's Park against Dundee on the TV next Friday. It should be an absolute belt, no matter what happens.
Come on, the Queen's Park.
What a game! Yeah, I mean, what a game that's set up for next week. And I think the thing is, you can see even yesterday in the Dundee game yesterday, and the fact they got booed off the pitch says how much these Dundee fans really want to get up.
At home as well. I thought Dundee had a decent support there last night.
Aye, they did, aye. But to be honest, Michael, I'd just love to see tradition and to see the oldest club in Scotland make it up to the top flight. It would just be brilliant for me.
Okay, so thanks for joining me on the show, guys. Today it's been a pleasure to talk football as always on this locker room special, Scottish Cup special, where it finished Falkirk 0, Inverness 3. Inverness is the first team in the Scottish Cup final on the 3rd of June. Of course, thanks to Alan Risk, the Falkirk fan, for joining us on the show tomorrow. We'll be back tomorrow after this Rangers Celtic game. Join Graham Duffy and Scott for all the reaction from that game and I will be back with you next Friday on the Locker Room for the Championship Fun Friday. That's what I'm going to call it, Fun Friday. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week here on Indie Live Radio and Independence Live. And remember, be here tomorrow at 3 o'clock after the Old Firm game at Hampden.